foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this and see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm lying. But I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Don't put your blame on me. Take a look at...
So, from a recovery perspective, with a spiritual grounding, which is always ever present, the so-called little things in the present are not little, they're everything. But then, when I talk to myself, what do I want in the future? What do I want to create? It's always quite big. And this recovery vlog, or this vlog, which at the moment is focusing a lot on recovery, in terms of a public step forward, is the foundation. But in terms of what I'm interested in, it gets much bigger. But this tangible, concrete thing of making a vlog every day is just the start. And I'm so interested in what is the next step. Where do I really want to go? And when I'm stuck in flashbacks, stuck in PTSD, dissociation, panic, terror, rage, and the like, I have no grounding in the present, no recovery grounding, no spiritual grounding, and the future essentially doesn't exist, and to the extent it does exist, there is the projection of past terror and awfulness onto the future. And my mind and my nervous system believes, well, there's going to be more of that. I don't want that. So there is a necessary grounding in the present, recovery grounding, spiritual grounding, that makes looking forward possible, makes creating the next moment, the next minute, the next hour, day, week possible. And inviting and exciting. But of course, I don't want to touch people directly with my PTSD symptoms. I don't want to reach out and spread my terror, my fear, my anxiety, my paranoia, whatever it happens to be. I want to touch them with my recovery, with my spiritual self, with emotional well-being and expansiveness, mental clarity. This is how I want to reach out and touch. So I'm starting with recovery, obviously. And it's funny, as I was walking up here, that phrase, that I don't know if this is a 12-step thing or just a recovery thing. What is it? Bloom where you're planted? Because if you have this perpetual dissatisfaction with where you are in life, recovery may not go that well for you. And so in one sense, that's what I'm doing. I'm blooming where I'm planting. Right now, I'm talking about recovery. I am in recovery. That is the soil my feet are in. That is true, that is real, and I have no shame about it. And I'm interested in so much more. The other thing is, there is this assumption sometimes, and maybe it's just the assumption, Mike, maybe it's just the assumption we make about ourselves. We're broken, we're defective, there's something wrong with us, maybe we shouldn't even exist. Whether it's addiction, mental health, being abused, being degraded, being unseen, being ignored, being devalued, whatever it is, by family, by society, by culture, by those in power. And that's why I'm so interested in power. So there can be this internalized belief we're not enough, or we're too much, we're a problem. So, bloom where you're planted, yes. But where do you want to go from there? And that is such a powerful idea. So in one sense, you do want to discard with a certain kind of fundamental dissatisfaction, which could be getting in the way of your recovery, of whatever you're recovering from, or just being happy in life. But then a different kind of dissatisfaction is absolutely essential to blooming, to really blooming. And what does that look like? That's what I find so interesting. So that was pretty wild, because I just met a guy. Oh, now we got some wind. I just met a guy on the trail here, just asked me what I was doing with this little camera, and I said, well, I'm doing a vlog about recovery. And this is just a random person I met out on this hiking trail, and said, yeah, some really, really bad things happened to me when I was growing up. Didn't remember for decades. He's like, just want you to know you're not alone. Him too. Him too. I've met 4 or 5 people on this trail in the past half an hour. One of them, when I said what my experience was, literally said, me too. Which is that is a perfect example of why I'm sharing this on YouTube. Because I know it's not just me. And one of the things I've known about myself for a long time in recovery, if someone is struggling with suicidal ideation, and for me it's the 5-year-old version of me, and I know it's not the adult me in the present, but it's still me, and it's a very big part of my core experience. If you don't offer real hope to that person, or to that part of that person that's feeling suicidal, they may never recover, and they may act on that impulse. So I've known that for a long time, that recovery can't be, it's just gonna suck for the rest of my life, it's gonna be a struggle for the rest of my life. Fuck that. Fuck that. That will not be my recovery. Not gonna have it. White knuckle recovery by whatever name. Absolutely not. Because my inner 5-year-old says, if that's all you have to offer me, I'm gone. As a promise. So that's another reason why I want to share a version of recovery that's not just, well, the rest of my life's gonna suck. It's just gonna be a struggle with this depression, this anxiety, this suicidality, whatever it is, this addiction, this behavior, whatever pattern of using substances it might be. Sometimes it's addiction, sometimes it's coping, self-medicating. It's not all one thing. But I think sometimes people, when they try and get into recovery, and I understand why therapists or drug and alcohol counselors, whatever they may be, because they're trying to manage expectations. If people are like, oh, I've stopped using, or I'm starting a new life, or I'm trying to be free of depression, anxiety, whatever it may be, and if it's harder than expected, people can fall back into old patterns, behaviors, and so on. And then recovery can sort of not move forward. So yeah, you want to manage expectations in one sense so people don't, well, get the fuckets. It's what it's called. Being like, well, this is too hard. I'm just going to go back to doing what I did. Recovery's too hard. So I get that. Managing expectations. It's going to be hard, and it might be hard for a long time. I don't care about hard. I never have in my entire life. Oh, it's going to be hard. I don't care. Is it meaningful? Does it matter to me? Is it worth it? Those are the only questions I care about. So hard doesn't matter. Not to me, and not to the kind of recovery I care about, not to the kind of recovery, to the kind of human life that I'm interested in and that I would want to speak about to others. So that is another reason why I want to share my experience of recovery, is the expansive version, the one where you feel yourself moving into thriving, that heart pulse, that beat, that light, that vital energy, where you feel, I know what I want in life, and I'm powerful, I can get it, and I have it. My roots are in the ground now. Getting back in touch with your own soul, whatever that means to you, your true self. Nobody's true self, true identity is depression, is anxiety, is addiction, is suicidality. No one's. No one's soul is that. It's not just possible to recover. It is possible to become an expansive, vital, joyous human being. You can be a light unto yourself and a light unto others, and that light can be damn near infinite. It is infinite. So yes, recovery can be day by day, step by step, but what's the goal? Just making it through? I'll let other people talk about that form of recovery. I never will. There's power in figuring out how to make it through this day, through the next moment. I agree. Sometimes that's necessary, but there has to be more. It's the only thing I'm interested in. And this is where I started talking before a gentleman came by. Agency is so important here. And this is where the people I find interesting, and it's been true for a long time, and this is very much true in recovery, but it's also just the people in life that I find interesting and always have, are the question is always what's within our power, what's within our agency to choose for ourselves. And in recovery, it is very often said, because it is essentially true, the only thing you really have control over is your own recovery. If you try to save everyone else, you try and save even one other person. And this is all what Al-Anon is for families and friends of alcoholics. If you're living with an alcoholic or just care about somebody with uncontrolled drinking, you can lose your mind because of their behavior. And so part of that program is, you have to focus on yourself. Focus on your own sanity and spiritual well-being. And then I look at, and this is why I have like Casey Neistat and Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, tagged in my videos thus far. Because what they have done in their lives, the way they have enacted agency to be in touch with what they want, and then move forward, how can I move towards that in a powerful way? And I've heard Stephen talk, I don't even remember who it was, but a lot of the people he has on the show have also enacted their own agency in powerful ways. Because, and this can be a difficult thing to talk about, is if you actually identify with a victim as being a victim, that's your core identity, that's not a lot of fun. It's not powerful. If you have genuinely been victimized, you need to know that that's true and is a part of your story. But to really take ownership of your life, you can't identify centrally as the victim, because you will never feel powerful enough to do anything big, expansive, meaningful, deep in your life. And that's been part of my struggle, is getting in touch with the true ways that I was victimized, doing the therapy, the recovery work, to know that part about myself, that part of my story, to integrate that as a part of my story, and then be able to experience that as just a part of who I am. Who am I in the fullest sense, though? The part of the human experience, the part of recovery and spiritual life as well, that I find interesting, you could call a shout from the heart. The heart that's like the sun, that radiates outwards. The spiritual heart that cannot be crushed. I was crushed in my life, in this life. It is a miracle that I survived my childhood. It is a miracle that I survived the past 3 years. And I am past it. I can now be expansive, powerful, and free. And that's why YouTube is so powerful, because I want to show that that's possible. No matter how crushed you have been, and no matter from what, you can recover. And not everyone gets that opportunity. Terrible things happen, tragic things happen. Suicide happens, overdoses happen, random tragic accidents happen. All that's true. But if you're still here, if you can hear my voice, you can recover. You can be powerful and free. And that's why the range of topics that interest me are expansive. In one sense, it goes from the lowest of the low, the most crushing things a human being can experience, to the highest of the high, which oftentimes is spiritual. It certainly is for me. I've worked with Ken Wilber for 21 years. The book Integral Spirituality is dedicated to me. Spirituality runs through my veins. Recovery is for everybody. Spirituality, spiritual identity is a birthright of all beings.